Hello, this is Julia Claire Robles, Mrs. Pringle.
Hello. Yes, this is Miami Archie Giroloho as Elaine Pringle.
Yes, sir. This is Eric Sean D. Manzol playing as Dunham.
Hello, I am Maria Althea Gamboa and I am the audio editor and co-director of this video.
My name is Gian Balo and I am the co-director, cameraman, and video editor.
Dunham, I've just had word from Mr. Harper that he was called away to the bedside of a friend who is very ill. He sent me these flowers. It's a good thing he did. I don't approve of young men refusing dinner invitations at the very last minute.
I'll take the Boston paper, Miss Pringle.
It's too bad. After you've said it all so beautifully. And it's getting so late. Someone might be coming at any moment. How's cook?
Lieutenant Temper, as always, madame.
I'm glad to hear it. She's like an actress. The better the temper, the better the performance. As long as she serves us a good dinner, I don't care how much she swears. The rest of you can just keep out of her way. Where's Gustav?
I'm sorry to have to say it, madame, but there's such an awful vision out. He's sleeping off the sidewalk.
Oh, dear me. Yes, I should have ordered an awning. But who expected a storm like this?
Here are the place cards, Mother, and the diagram. Shall I put them around?
Yes, dear. Elaine, I'm going up to look after your father. He's so helpless about these times. Remove one plate, Danan.
Remove one plate, madame? Oh, madame, it is certainty. You will sit down at 13.
13? Why, you're right. 13. We can never sit down at 13. This is all due to Mr. Harper's negligence. Sick friend. Nothing. He's just one of those careless men who never answered their invitations in time. His flowers. Indeed, to make me forgive him. Now look at the trouble he's put me through. 13. I wonder whom I could get to come in at the last minute. Quick, Elaine, help me think.
There's always Uncle George.
He never opens his bag.
Mr. Morgan, madame, he always has a joke or two.
Why, yes, Dunham. That's clever of you. Hello? Central? Lakeview 5971. At once, please. Elaine, dear, your hair is much too tight. Pull it out. Pull it out. Come here. Mr. Morgan's well. This is Mrs. Pringle speaking. From across the street. Yes. When Mr. Morgan comes in, please tell him to call me up right away. I want him to come dine with us. In about 10 minutes. You expect him? Have him call me right away. Now, if you shouldn't get it, then what'll do?
Well, Mother, I don't have to be at the table. It's your party anyway. Everybody's married and older than I am.
Didn't I put you next to Oliver Fansworth? Millions. He's worth millions.
Well, he won't be giving me any.
Can't he marry you? Aren't you going to try to make a good match for yourself? I think every eligible man I can at your head. Can't you finish the rest yourself?
It's no use, Mother. You're trying to marry me off to anyone as important as he is. He frightens me to death. I lose my tongue. I'm as afraid of him as I'd be afraid of the Prince of Wales.
The Prince of Wales.
Oh, what I would give to have the Prince of Wales in my house.
New York has lost its heart to him. I was just telling Mr. Fansworth yesterday that I'd give anything to have the Prince of Wales here. I would establish my social position for life. And I have such a reputation for being such a wonderful hostess. Dear me, the phone. This is Mrs. Pringle. What? No. Oh, caught in the snowdrift? Can get another car? Good. The widow can't come. That leaves us 12. Remove 2 plates, Dunham. That's a shame. I'm heartbroken. Oh, my dear. How can I get along without you? But have you really tried? Oh, I'm reduced to tears. Goodbye, dear. Well, I'm glad she dropped out. Central, give me Lakeview 5971. Dunham, with 2 less, you can save 2 cocktails and at least 4 glasses of champagne. Has Mr. Morgan come in yet? Well, don't give him the message. I telephoned before about crossing the street to Mrs. Pringle's for dinner. It's too late. You understand? Well, anyway, I've invited Clem, returned my indebtedness, and saved my champagne. Besides,
Well, the liquor's getting low, madam. With prohibition and entertaining so
But
much.
Mother, if we only have 12 people, Father can sit at the end of the table.
but he has to sit at the end. It looks too undignified when the man of the house is pushed inside.
There's no other way. There must be a woman at each end.
How absurd! I always forget. Of course, 12 is an impossible number. I don't want to put any of these women at the head of the table. There's Mrs. Darby, such a cat. I want to give her the honor. And Mrs. Answer it, Dunham.
Hello? Mrs. Pringle's residence? A message? Yes, sir. What, sir? Mr. Darby? The doctor says your baby has a chicken pox?
Chicken pox! Elaine!
Mother!
Yes, sir. Mr. Darby sends apologies. But owing to the transmissibility of the disease, Mr. and Mrs. Darby feel obliged to regret and also their house guests, Mr. and Mrs. Fleetwood.
That's 4 out.
Then you're only 8. Quick, the plates don't have it.
Don't we know someone to invite the last name?
The Hatwoods?
They don't serve drinks. When they entertain, I can't afford to invite them to drink.
The Greens?
She's not interesting enough.
Mr. Conley?
He never makes a dinner call, even after all the times I have invited him.
Hester Longley?
Not at the same table with you and Oliver Fransford. She's far too pretty, too clever.
Where's our book? Ridgeway 9325? This is Elaine Pringle. What topper am I speaking to? Oh, Ella! Hello! I hope you haven't finished your dinner. We had a party arranged here, and the last moment, everybody's been dropping out. The blizzard. Can't you flog your family around the corner and eat with us? Mother and I thought we knew you well enough to call you like this at the 7th hour. You would? Oh, fine. 6 more plates, Dunham. What? Oh. But... Dunham, get Mother quick. Yes, of course. Love it. Why, certainly. Yes, my dear. All right. Great Caesar! I've done.
What's the matter, Elaine? What is...
Now I've done it. I just done it. But I couldn't get out of it. I just couldn't. You weren't here. I always lose my head and bungle things.
But what? Don't keep us waiting like this. What is it?
I invited Ella and the family, and she accepted. And then she said they had 2 house guests. And would it be alright? And of course I said it would. And now, we're 16.
16? But madam, the table's not at home.
Elaine, that's just so like you. No tact, no worldly wisdom. If I'd been on the phone, I'd politely say that my table...
But you weren't at the phone. You ought to send such messages yourself. You know I always lose my head.
But the dishes, madam, and we have 14 squads.
I won't eat any.
But I must not be disgraced. We'll have to make the best of it and insert another table board.
But mother, I need not sit at the table.
You are going to sit right next to Oliver Fansworth. Now, I don't wish to hear another word about it.
But can't we squeeze them in without all the work of adding another board? If I move the plates and chairs closer...
Have you forgotten that Mr. Topper weighs something like 250 pounds? And Mrs. Conley has no waistline? It cannot be done.
Go to arrange, madam. She says the one is prepared for 14.
I can't help it. She'll have to prepare for 16. Tell her to open cans of soup and vegetables and...
But the ice cream forms like gelatin molds.
I'll pretend I don't like them.
And I'll pretend I'm on a diet.
But I really wouldn't have to be at the table.
Be still! The telephone! Now what? Don't answer it. It's driving me mad. Hello? Yes. This is Mrs. Pringle? Oh! Yes, Jessica! What? The blizzard? You're cold? Too dangerous. Oh, Jessica, you poor dear. Yes, your husband's right. It will be foolhardy. Put on a mustard plaster. Hot toddy. Go to bed. So sorry. There. That's wonderful. Now we're just 14.
But the cards are all wrong. Only 6 are coming who were invited originally. You'll have to make another diagram. How do you want them seated?
Give them to me.
Here are some wish cards.
What a mess! I spent hours over that diagram. So much so depends upon having guests seated harmoniously. There's the front doorbell. Dunham, I told Annie to answer it for you. But go, peek into the drawing room and tell me who it is. You murderous instrument! What have you to say? Now what? Hello? Who? Mr. Fansworth? Mr. Oliver Fansworth? No, you're his secretary. He's what? Instructed you to make his excuses. He had to leave for Boston at once on very important business. Oh! How dare he? How dare he? The last moment? Like this? No regard for a hostess's feelings. No regard for the efforts she goes to provide an evening's enjoyment. And for such a good dinner I planned. And he promised he would come. Business. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. He didn't want to exert himself, was afraid of freezing in the blizzard, as if he didn't have half a dozen limousines to carry him to the door. Selfishness, downright rudeness, and worth millions. Just a match for you, Elaine. And I was bound. You should meet him and sit next to him at the table. And now, I don't know when I can give you the chance like that again. I'm perfectly furious. I'll never speak to him again. I won't be treated that way.
Perhaps he really did have business and was called away.
And I was one of the most important hostesses in the city. People clamoring to receive my invitations. All my affairs are a success. I insist that they shall be. I can't bear a failure. I won't be a failure. He was my most important guest. He's such a man's man. So important financially. Every other man considers it an honor to meet him. And now, he's not coming? I'm furious! Furious! Oh, it's all this damnable blizzard.
Now I will have to stay away from the table. His not coming makes us 13 again.
Go to bed. Go up to the nursery. I'll send you milk and crackers.
But mother, it's not my fault that he had business out of town.
Yes, it is! If you'd perk up a bit and not be so timid and make something of yourself, he would hear about your attractions from other men and be so curious to meet you himself. What a family. I have no one to help me with my ambitions. Go to bed. I certainly won't sit down to 13. Go to bed and get out of my sight.
It was Mr. Morgan, madam.
Mr. Morgan? But I telephoned his maid to tell him not to come.
You could not receive the second message, madam, for I heard him explain to Mr. Pringle how happy he was to receive a telephone invitation.
That makes you 13 again. Unless you don't want me to go to bed.
Of course I don't want you to go to bed. We're back to where we started. 14, then.
I'll get the cocktails ready, madam. Annie told me there were several motors making their way to the snow. Let's take now and go swearing over the dinner getting too dry.
I won't answer it.
I should say not. Hello? What is it? Yes? Yes? Mrs. Tupper, yes. Mrs. Tupper, but now you must come. We've prepared for you. Yes, for 8 of you. Well, your daughter told my daughter about your house guests, and we are delighted to have them. But now we're set for you. But every plate is set. But your daughter was quite right. It wasn't an imposition at all. But you must come now. Of course, my daughter had the authority to invite the guests. Oh, 8 isn't at all a big number. There is room. The table is all set. But I beg of you. But my dear, you are not imposing. Oh, but how foolish of you to take that stand. Why, my dear, my dear. Now what do you think of that? Mrs. Topper is perfectly furious at Ella for telling you about the house guests and says Ella has no tact. That nothing would induce her to bring 8 when we invited 6. So she's leaving Ella and Henry at home. Only 6 are coming. Remove 2 plates, Dunham. We're 12 after all.
But if you leave at 12, Father can sit at the end.
I shall go mad. I'll never entertain again. Never, never. People ought to know whether they're coming or not, but they accept. And with regret and accept, they drive me wild. Ugh. This is my last dinner party. My very last. A fiasco, an utter fiasco. A haphazard crowd hurried together when I had With friends, I wipe my slate clean. They'll miss my entertainments. They'll wish they had been more considerate. After this, I'm going to live for myself. I'm going to be selfish and hard and unsociable and drink my liquor myself instead of offering it gratis to the whole town. I'm through. Through with men like Oliver Fansworth. I don't care how rich they are, how influential they are, how important they are. They're nothing without courtesy and consideration. Business, off-on-train nonsense. Didn't want to come? Didn't want to meet a sweet, pretty girl? Didn't want to marry her? Well, he's not good enough for you. Don't you marry him. Don't you dare marry him. I won't let you marry him. Do you hear? If you try to elope or anything like that, break it off. Yes, I would. Oliver Fansworth will never get recognition from me. He is beneath my notice. I hate Oliver Fansworth.
A note from Mr. Fansworth, madam.
A note from Mr. Fansworth.
Yes, madam. There are two strange gentlemen in the lower hall. They presented this letter. He said he was a secretary. All the other guests are upstairs in the drawing room, madam. I counted 12 in all, including you and Mr. Pringle and Miss Elaine. But the two gentlemen downstairs, madam, are waiting for your answer. The one gentleman's face looked very familiar, madam, but I just can't place him. Although I'm sure I've seen his face somewhere.
Seen his face? Somewhere? Oh my goodness! Elaine! It's the Prince of Wales!
The secretary said you called up the telephone, or Central disconnected you. He's about to tell you that Mr. Fansworth knew that the visit had prevented His Highness from keeping an engagement way uptown.
The Prince of Wales, sitting in my lower hall, waiting for me to ask him to dinner?
Then we'll be 13 again.
There's a secretary, miss. He is his bodyguard.
Certainly the secretary, Elaine. We shall be 14 at dinner. Serve the cocktails, Donna. The guests may sit anywhere they choose. I shall bring the prince in with me.
But Mother, was it nice of Oliver Farnsworth to send the prince in his place?
Didn't I always say that Oliver Fansworth was the most considerate of men?
I think I shall like Mr. Farnsworth.
Silly child. It's too late now to like Mr. Fansworth. It's time now to like the prince. I always managed somehow to be the most successful of hostesses. Thank God for the blizzard.